Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris had their first showdown early this morning in Salt Lake City, Utah. It was the first and only vice presidential debate before next month's election. The two candidates clashed over various issues, with the coronavirus taking center stage, Harris lashing out at Trump's administration over its handling of the virus, while Pence defended their actions. Well, America is leading the world with the highest number of COVID-19 infections and deaths. And perhaps let's take you through some of the highlights of what came out this morning. And joining me in studio right now is Newzroom Africa's political editor, Sbu Ngalwa. You were up, Mhlekazi, since 2 a.m.
Make it 1 a.m.
Okay, so if you were up that early, it means that you were ready for a fruitful debate, you know?
Perhaps
how did this debate then end up being about a fly on Mike Pence's head?
Look, the reality here is that there were no fireworks in this debate, but certainly there were a few sparks between Harris and Pence. And about the issue of the fly, actually, well, some people are saying that it's perhaps a reflection of the nature of the debate as to what it became. Others have gone as far as saying that maybe this fly, you know what usually attracts flies, but we will not go there.
And just as we're talking about the fly, there are some of the tweets reacting to that debate. I want to hear some analysis from the fly. It doesn't give us the analysis.
The infamy of that fly actually is so enormous that that fly has a Twitter account, and that Twitter account has already attracted 88,000 followers.
No. A Twitter account has already been established.
Already.
Sorry, what's the handle?
It's Mike Pence's fly.
Nice. Okay, let's perhaps see some more reaction. There. And that fly is an American hero. Oh my goodness. All right, so perhaps let's see some more reaction. The fact that a strong woman of color stood on stage at a vice presidential debate and told a guy like Mike Pence to stop interrupting her, I think, should be getting more more airplay than the fly.
Obviously, those are people that feel that there should be more serious issues that is looked at. Yes, there were some fireworks, as I'm saying, particularly on issues like the Supreme Court issues, but more importantly on the issue of the coronavirus response. And I think that's where, on most issues, the candidates kind of darted around questions, but there were issues where they were quite divergent, particularly on the issue of police as well.
Not giving straight answers, I think, is what you are alluding to, Sbu. But I want to go back to that very issue of people feeling strongly that Kamala Harris told Mike Pence, stop interrupting me, I am making my point. It takes us back to the first presidential debate, because the criticism against Joe Biden was that he couldn't tell Donald Trump to shut up.
But the other reality is that who can tell Donald Trump to shut up? But I think what was important in this debate, I think particularly for Pence actually, was to bring back some sense of decorum and also bring some respectability into the debate and try and claw back some of the ground that Trump would have lost in that first debate. And I think when Kamala Harris said that, actually he took a step back, and I think that no one wanted to see a repeat of the first performance by the presidential candidates, because Donald Trump didn't come out looking good from that debate.
Yeah, and that's actually, it means that Kamala Harris, they went back to the drawing board, the Democrats, and perhaps decided that they were going to at least put some ground rules and actually be firmer coming to this vice presidential debate. We know that there is the upcoming presidential debate. Take us through some of the highlights, at least, Sbu, of what came out strongly for you.
So the one issue here that I think was always going to overshadow this debate was always going to be the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus. And true to form, Kamala Harris went in quoting the numbers, 211,000 Americans that have died, and referencing that infamous event at the Rose Garden, where many believe that that's where Trump actually got infected. In fact, when the vice president was asked a question around that event, he ducked and dived, and I think that there's a bite that we can play now, which actually is that very moment where Susan Page is asking that question.
Well, let's actually take a listen to that soundbite.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. And President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States.
Sbu, I have no words for what happened there. And you could actually tell that she's deliberately diverting away from this question to kick off. And she's actually reading from the script. Look, you're not going to go away because after the break we're going to bring into the conversation Brooks Spector. And he's the associate editor at Daily Maverick. He's also going to give us some analysis on the vice presidential debate that you just saw.